I know that it was super exciting to see Hisense bring out the massive 136-inch micro LED TV and the 116-inch RGB mini LED TV at CES. We all enjoyed that very much, but I have to admit I was a little bit disappointed not to hear about the rest of Hisense's TV lineup. Certainly there must be more. Well, of course there is, and we're finally hearing about it today, and I'm going to show you all of Hisense's new ULED TVs right now. Okay, let's start things off by painting in rather broad strokes. We have a new U6, U7, U8, and U9. Probably not a huge surprise. That's the nomenclature that Hisense has used in the past. But there are some meaningful changes this year. First of all, I'll give you the full model number as we go through each series. And we're gonna start right now with the new U6QF. That's right, we've got Q throughout the entire lineup. So U7Q, U8Q, U9Q, but the F is a distinguishing letter here. Means Fire TV. So the U6 lineup is going to be available in sizes ranging from 55 to 100 inches. It comes with a 144 hertz native panel stock all the way down in the U6 line. Now remember, Hisense has other TVs outside of its ULED TV lineup. ULED marks the entry point into their premium TVs, and the U6 is the first step in that lineup. So you're gonna get 144 hertz native panel with all of their gaming dashboard stuff built right in. This particular TV is expected to hit somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 nits peak, which is impressive for an entry level into the ULED premium lineup. Now, one thing that you need to know about this TV, as I mentioned before, it's gonna run the Fire TV OS. That's going to be different than the rest of the lineup, which runs Google TV as we've come to expect from Hisense in years prior. The other thing that you need to know about the U6 is that in the 100-inch variant that's behind me right now, it comes with a matte anti-glare screen. And yes, it is matte in all the ways that matter. The reason Hisense put that on this particular television is because the bigger the screen, the more of a reflective surface that you have. And they wanted to make sure that there weren't any problems with glare or reflections on such a huge screen. Since this TV is more likely to go in a living room area where there's plenty of light coming in, it makes sense that they would want to abate that glare, and they're going to use that with a matte screen. What I can tell you is that it does a remarkable job of abating light reflections and glare. There will be a small hit to sharpness when you go off angle, but that is the result of the filtration that they use on here, and I think it's a really good trade-off. The other thing I got to say about the U6 is that the local dimming capabilities on this TV are remarkable. Like, I would put them in the top tier category. I stepped well off angle. I looked for blooming around the bright objects on dark background. They actually have some very brave demo reels running on these TVs right now where I can actually judge how much blooming might be happening, and I saw virtually none. Absolutely, there's a little bit in between bright objects. You can't have that many dimming zones. There is no zone count for this TV being released right now, but I gotta tell you, I am immensely impressed with the local dimming on this TV thus far. All right, that's the U6QF. Now let's move on to the U7QG. The U7QG also is going to go all the way up to 100 inches. You're going to find that that's a bit of a theme in today's report. This particular TV is expected to hit up to 3,000 nits. All right, so you're starting to get an idea of what we're working with. Now, Hisense historically has under-promised and over-delivered on the brightness capability. But let's also remember that great brightness capability without the processing to handle it means nothing. I am happy to report, though, that based off the demo reels I'm seeing here, they're doing a great job of being very judicious about where they apply that brightness power. Other things you might want to know about this TV is that it comes with a 165 hertz native refresh rate panel, which to me is just, it's crazy. Like, where's it going to stop? These things are starting to look a lot like PC monitors. I expect it to be great for gaming and especially great for watching all kinds of HDR content. The fact that you can get 3,000 nits out of the U7 from Hisense's lineup says a lot, I think. Now, they're not talking about pricing, but they are indicating that availability is in as few as 30 days. I think that we're gonna start being able to purchase these TVs in about a month from now. So think end of April, you'll be able to start picking up these TVs. And not long before that time, we should know what the pricing looks like. Though historically, Hisense has been very aggressive with its pricing, and I don't think anything about that is gonna change anytime soon. One more thing before we move on to the U8QG. Hisense is really ramping up the audio capabilities of these TVs in a pretty major way. If you take a look at the back of this TV, you're gonna notice that there are a couple of subwoofer drivers. I believe this particular TV has a 2.1.2 audio system, and we're just gonna see that go up in the 8 and the 9. Speaking of which, let's go over to the U8QG right now. Take everything that I just told you about the U7QG and just ratchet it up several notches. We're expecting up to 5,000 nits peak brightness out of the U8QG. It has a 4.1.2 audio system, so it's gonna enable some Dolby Atmos for us, 165 hertz refresh rate, and really, I think that the U8 looks a lot like the U9 did last year, so it's coming in extremely aggressive with the brightness and the local dimming zones. This is the TV that's gonna take firm aim at OLED. At least I would say that normally if the U9 did not exist. We'll get to that in a moment. Something that I didn't mention as we moved from the U7 to the U8 is that the anti-glare and anti-reflection treatment on these TVs ramps up a bit as you go up in the line. And the reason that is because the brighter they get, the more aggressive they can abate some of that light reflection without losing any of the brightness from the TV. These TVs get brighter, they can have a little bit more light reflection handling. I've also noticed that the off-angle viewing on these TVs, purely subjectively, seems to be better than I've experienced before. I almost didn't want to make that particular statement because I want to get them in the lab and test them for myself, but subjectively here at the event, they look better off-angle than I recall the TVs looking last year. So I'm gonna find out a little bit more about the type of panel that they're using, but I'm strongly encouraged that we're looking at an era where complaining about off-angle viewing might soon be a thing of the past. I really think that the U8QG here is gonna represent that super premium value tier that Hisense wants it to represent. More people are gonna end up purchasing this TV as opposed to the U9, just because I think the U9 is extremely aggressive. But with that said, I gotta show you this thing, right? So we know that Hisense has the 116-inch UX. That's where the UX has gone. Ultra premium RGB mini LED, which presented an opportunity for the U9. I feel like the U9 really makes sense in Hisense's lineup now, whereas before I was kind of like, is this a gap bridger between the U8 and the UX? The U9 really stands on its own this year. First off, they've added a 65-inch model, which I think is gonna be great news for a lot of you out there who wanted the best picture quality that Hisense could put out, but you didn't necessarily wanna go with a 75 or 85 or even 98-inch TV. So the U9QG will be available in 65, 75, and 85-inch variants. Peak brightness for this TV, are you ready? Expected to be around 6,500 nits peak. 165 hertz native refresh rate, and the best audio system that Hisense has to put in this core ULED TV lineup. I am really interested to see how this TV ends up getting priced out relative to the rest of the lineup. There is no doubt though that this is the finest work that I've seen Hisense do outside of that moonshot RGB mini LED and the micro LED set that they're putting out. I think this is gonna be an interesting new area in super premium that maybe we haven't really seen explored before. We're gonna have to put this TV against the very best QLEDs out there. And as far as pure brightness horsepower goes, I'm not sure there's anything out there that can really touch this TV. We'll see. We'll have to see what kind of surprises some other manufacturers come out with later this year. We're still waiting for some announcements by others, but right now, Hisense appears to be in a ridiculously strong position going into 2025. As I mentioned before, no pricing and availability has officially been disclosed, but I did find out that the U7 U6 and U8, not necessarily in that order, will be available in as few as 30 days. So wait for about a month. We'll know all about the pricing for those. The U9 here, that's going to be a little bit later in the year. I don't know how much later, but generally there's about 3 or 4 months that separate these things. So there will be a little bit of a wait, but not an insanely long wait. Guys, not sure where we're gonna pop this into the video, but I just found out something new that I cannot wait to tell you. So a little bit of backstory. I did a You Asked episode not that long ago in which a viewer asked the question about when we might see USB-C in televisions, maybe even as a DisplayPort option. Well, guess what? Hisense has it. They're gonna have it in both the U8QG and the U9QG. Ask and ye shall receive, I guess. Obviously, that particular viewer was not the only one wondering about that because Hisense has now included it in their TVs. Now, there are a few specs related things that I'm not privileged to understand. I'm curious about what bandwidth limitations for DisplayPort might mean in terms of max resolution at maximum refresh rate. We'll find out about for you soon, but I think that's a really, really exciting development for a lot of folks out there. Super nerdy, but I gotta say, I gotta love it. That is Hisense's big reveal for its new ULED TV lineup. I hope you enjoyed it. I have so many more details to give you once we start reviewing these TVs, but hopefully now you've had a nice little taster for what Hisense is offering. Let me know what you think about this lineup down in the comments. I feel like this is going to be a huge conversation starter. I can't wait to see you there in the comments. Like this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you want to see more. We're going to be reviewing all of these TVs this year. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like.